This is Thursday, May 11th, the Council on Aging Board meeting. Why don't we do a quick round of introductions? I'm J.D. Miller, Chairman of the Board. To my left.
Marty O'Toole, Board of Selectmen Liaison.
Dale Daylog, Board Member.
Janice Desmond, Board Member.
Joan Powers, Town for Elder Services.
Board Member.
Jablonski, Board Member.
Leslie James, Board Member.
John McLaughlin, Chairperson for the Commission on Disabilities, Scituate, Mass.
Elaine Shambari, Liaison to Council on Aging from the Commission on Disabilities.
Betty Johnson, Friends of Scituate Seniors Liaison.
Jill Johnston, COA Administrative Assistant.
Linda Hayes, Council on Aging Director.
Welcome, everyone. Let's just do a quick review of minutes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So would everyone please review April minutes? I'm pointing at Marty because we got to change the agenda and get him out of here. So, but let's double check on April minutes.
You didn't say throw me out.
Here's the one who wrote those beautiful minutes.
Escort you out of here.
I read them at home, I saw no errors at all.
Yep.
We are missing another chair. Gordon comes
If he
in.
comes in, we can grab one. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at the minutes? Does anyone have any changes, edits, corrections to April minutes? Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion that we approve these wonderful minutes by Janice.
Put a little.
Who wants the second?
I'll second it.
Very good. Very good. We're going to change things just a little bit off of the agenda. I'm going to hand it over to Marty O'Toole, our liaison from the Board of Selectmen, to give us a brief.
Well, as everybody's probably heard by now, I have resigned my position as of June 6th from the Board of Selectmen. I was elected in 2013, and this is it's the first year into my second term. Some lifestyle changes, and some things are going to be taking me out of state. I don't feel like I could do the job properly, so that's why I decided to resign. I did choose to be liaison, at which, people said, I think, at the time Florence said, did you draw the wrong card? I said, no, I really wanted to be liaison. I wanted to push the senior center along. And it's been just about 4 years. And I know we've had some progress. I'd like to obviously see it go a lot further. So, we'll be around. I'm not going to be here a lot, but we certainly will be still in Scituate. But it has been a pleasure. And I just want to say to everybody that I know that you guys work hard. And the friends work hard. And, if we can get everybody sort of on the same page and get a good force behind things, I think we can get something done with the senior center. It was a pleasure to be at the Public Safety Building today, and I was thinking it'd be nice to see the completion of the senior center as well. So hopefully that will happen. But again, it's been a pleasure, and I do appreciate everybody's support. And with mixed emotions, obviously, I am leaving the Board of Selectmen. So, but thank you. I'm going to stay for a few minutes, and
We appreciate all you've done.
thank you.
On behalf of the...
Good luck to Mr. McLaughlin. Although I think you're kind of crazy, but good luck. I don't know if you read the little book, but anyway, good luck to you.
On behalf of the Scituate Council on Aging Board and citizens of Scituate, we thank you for the time and the effort that you put in.
I appreciate it.
We're going to miss you.
Thank you.
So if you see something that falls out of line, grab us and let us know.
Absolutely.
Come to a meeting if you want.
Yes,
Yeah, you would,
exactly.
tonight you're looking for something to do.
Right, there you go. Exactly. But again, thank you. So,
Okay, well, Marty, we're going to miss you, but we'll move on here.
absolutely. Got to do it.
I'm going to hand it over to Linda.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. And for my part, I have enjoyed having Marty as my liaison, and he's really helped really usher me into this job, and then also made it so much more enjoyable, my doing this job. I really have appreciated your help, so I am sorry to see you go. How do they do that with the straws after you leave? Does somebody else get to, do they pick them up?
That's interesting. I chose the Council on Aging and Aging, also the veterans, for a couple of different reasons. I thought they were tied together quite a bit, but it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure someone will step up to the plate.
Of course they will. Of course they will. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I only have some updates, I guess, to impart at this point. We actually got another grant award from the Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare Foundation by surprise. They notified me, the Scituate resident who made the application to them, who works for them, didn't come to me or identify themselves beforehand, so it just came to us for another $500.
Is that the second or the third?
The third.
That's nice.
Which is very nice, yeah. So actually, I didn't have a chance to really think about what to use it for, so it'll be added to the donations and then earmarked at some point for a program that would be suitable. The feasibility study, as you know, is ongoing, and I just wanted to mention that this is a nuts and bolts analysis of the feasibility of the 4 sites that have been at least put on the docket for things like topography, soil testing, utility availability, drainage, etc. Very engineering-oriented. So once that is done, there would be something more concrete to discuss, and maybe, I guess the assumption is that there would be 4 or more, possibly options on the table to be discussed in a more pragmatic fashion. But until then, there won't be any discussions, so that the report itself is due to the Board of Selectmen by the end of June. So
But that's the background of the feasibility is, let's figure out.
Right.
There's might be some land mass that doesn't
Yeah.
work.
There have been some questions as to whether there'd be a public forum at this point or anything in terms of the 4 sites, but that wouldn't happen yet. And I'm just saying that really beyond that would be the next step. Transportation, we actually have a new part-time driver who has started with us. His name's Jim Keeley. He'll be on the schedule officially, I guess, for June, but actually has already gone through a few days of driving for the training that we can offer at this point before more formal training, and might fill in a couple of times in May. So we're happy to have him. The 14-person van that we've been without really since February, I think, because it's been at GATRA for repairs. I could go pick it up. We were sort of waiting to see if another van would become available that we might prefer instead of the size of the 14-person, but I think we're not sure about that. So there is some discussion as to what van would be most suitable for us. We have a small 8-person that isn't ideal. The drivers don't love it, and the passengers, it's a very narrow walkway in between the seating, so it's really difficult to fill it anyway, even with the 8 people. Or with the 8 people. The other is a 10-person, which they do like, and that ended up needing a starter this week, so, and we'd been out without the 3rd van, so we've been a little tight, and we could use that one back, but whether we wait it out and ask for a 12-person, or take an 8 or 10 from GATRA because it's enough or it's sufficient, it just doesn't help us for the trips. And the 14-person, we were really looking forward to using that for some of the in-state cultural trips to the museums and different sites around the state. So that's an ongoing thing. Seniorities, our last segment taped at the end of April, which has been aired, is on transportation, in fact, with Jean, and recording tomorrow with Laura Manier, Social Services Manager, who was here last month with us. and then programs with Lisa in June. I'll wait till the end for the budget discussion, I guess. For the community building, just to update you there, we will hold some of our singular exercise classes in the newer room that they sort of built out a little bit there while the library's been in there. So we'll have one room that we can hold some classes in lieu of St. Luke's in June. We've moved a yoga class. We're looking for some place for Zumba. It may have to stay at St. Luke's. We'll have to see about that. So obviously, we're hoping for expanded programming come July, August, or in the fall, using the building. Pickleball, we added some procedural protocols thanks to Betty's hiatus in Florida. She came back with some ideas on how we could manage the increasing numbers, and because so many more people are interested at varying levels, we just need to be able to manage that and make sure everybody enjoys their play and given the same opportunities that everyone has been having. The hours will change to Friday mornings at 9 a.m. beginning June 30th.
No, somebody parked.
And we are considering a small fee at this point. It's been free of charge. And we've supported it with equipment. Basically, there's not been other overhead, so we didn't feel that it was really necessary. But it's a much larger program. Excuse me. Down the whole thing. It feels like pollen.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Thanks. Anyway, we're looking at the program. It's popular. I guess there's maybe some other gymnasium opportunities that we hope will be in the future. Oh, thanks, Liz. So, more about that later. We ended our internship, intern with Kayla. It was great to have her around. We could do that again. They are asking us. It's just staff time. That is a concern. In addition to that, I have 2 tax work-off placements that we're managing here and are helping us out, so it's great. It's just hours, where we have someplace to put them.
Right.
And the ongoing projects that they can be working on. We did initiate a request to change our summer hours instead of 8:30 to 4:30, 8 to 4. Seemed like a good idea. But because of the unions for the staff, both the administrative union and the management union, it just became a slightly bigger deal. But they have approved it short of sending the letter out to the powers that be. But we just thought it was nice to start a little earlier, end a little earlier. We don't do a whole lot at the end of the day here. It's quiet. And a lot of times we have to hit the ground running so fast because seniors are coming in early and we do start our programs earlier. So we'll see how it goes, and if actually everybody likes it, then we could consider continuing that.
Seems like an easy summer change,
Yeah.
but
Everybody's out earlier, and for the most part, I think people are interested in the earlier programs.
People are up earlier.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a reason to get up. It's
yeah,
beautiful
it's,
weather, you don't
and
want to
it's,
sleep.
and it's sunny, yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Linda, a question on the pickleball, is it, now, right now it's 2 days a week, correct?
Yes.
And it's going to be once a week?
That's the
in
only time we
summer?
right now have.
Okay, all right.
If we
Clarify.
can find another one, we would do it, but as yet we don't.
Okay.
And I'm not sure we will.
Okay.
We're restricted by the use of the Jenkins Gym during the day, primarily by recreation now.
Yeah.
While they're still a little displaced and pending their use of the Gates School come the fall. But also, they only pay a janitor for 8 hours a day, so now the janitors are there during the day, not at night, when they have been able to extend those
I
hours.
see, okay.
We're restricted.
Can we call a timeout? Someone has parked in another car in the parking lot.
Parked on the street.
It's parked on the street.
Over here?
Is it you?
Yeah.
Could we move it? Because Marty's got to get out.
Oh, okay. Is that your trailer? Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's Mary's, I gotta bring it back.
Oh, okay.
Hoping to see it
wouldn't
again.
care.
Parking problems at the
Parking
senior
break.
center. There you go.
Yeah.
Parking break.
A few upcoming events.
Thanks very much.
Thanks again. Thanks again.
Take care.
Bye. Bye, Marty. Hopefully, we'll have another chance to do that. A few upcoming events that I would like to mention. So tomorrow, in fact, we're doing a little Mother's Day celebration here, because we have a certified kitchen, we're using it, and just have some little activities planned for that, and then a great movie to follow for those that want to stay for that.
It is a wonderful movie.
It is, I think it's very good.
I think I'm disappointed to see that neither week I had submitted an entry, a press release to the Mariner about next week's Cafe Talk presentation by Herb Crehan about the '67 Red Sox season, and really, he is, near a celebrity with the Red Sox. He is their baseball historian. He writes in their program. He's written 2 books. So outside of our flyers...
I think that's gotten picked up.
And discussion, I guess I've mentioned it on the cable program and maybe here as well, but any word of mouth that anyone could help to pass along, or if you want some flyers, I could print some more copies. That would be helpful, because we hope to have at least this place filled. I was concerned even about having it here, because we can only really accommodate a good 50 with people still hearing and seeing. But I do hope to at least have that many. I will say, I wrote to Jim Lonborg, and he did call me, so that was a thrill, but he can't come because he'll be in Scotland. But anyway, it was nice of him to consider it, and he would have. We do have a men's breakfast in June. It's always the first Monday. We are considering changing that as well, but not yet. So State Senator Patrick O'Connor did agree to come and do a talk for them, so it's a legislative update for them, hot topics on Beacon Hill. So that should be great. And we had our first men's breakfast at the new North River Grill at Widows Walk. So that went well, and we'll do it there again.
How's the food?
Great, great, fabulous. We are planning also what's become sort of the annual July 4th barbecue celebration. That is on Friday, June 30th. And then also, just interesting to note, we'd been asked to add someone to our program because she'd been teaching dance classes through the evening community program for Scituate, and that was ending. So we've now added Vivian Leonard, or will be adding her to our program. She uses, obviously, other space for her jazz and tap classes, but they'll become part of our program offerings come the fall, in September. If anybody has always wanted to do jazz or tap, or I want ballet. Tell her. Anyway, okay, so Jill did just read it, and I'm grateful to have Jill with us here today. As you know, we rotate through the staff, but it really worked out that she was coming tonight, because she is really my go-to person and right hand, needless to say, when it comes to accounts payable, receivable, the things that go into the accounting system on electronically. So it's also needs to be said, we have a new accounting system, which we're all still getting accustomed to.
Learning.
And not only that, it doesn't deliver the same information in I think, as digestible a format for us, so we're really having a little bit of trouble knowing how to get reports that give the information that we're interested in. So, remember the packet that I had given you? In addition to the municipal budget, which you saw last month, in those line items, we actually have 4 revolving accounts, gifts and donations, programs, senior programs. The formula grant is technically a revolving account, and that's the state money that we get based on the number of elders. And then GATRA, they made a revolving account last year, so that's just being used a little differently than it was before. Still the same money, still goes out the same, comes in the same, goes out the same, but it's just a revolving account. So if you look at the first sheet, while I try to discern for you what the numbers mean there, and I will point you to really midway down the page where it says total Council on Aging gifts, and there's a $40,000 number. And then there's also a $4,682 number. And then combined, those obviously are called the revised budget, so we think the 40,000 may have been there and had to come in from the other system, and then the other 4,000 was added to that to give us a $45,000 balance beginning our fiscal year, which was July. Since then, we have added $2,910, which is on the front sheet, really, and that's because 2,800, oh, wait a minute. 2,910
2009, yep.
came in, minus, we spent a little on some gifts at Christmas time, actually, $47. So the available balance in our gifts and donations is 48,000 and some change. Interesting, I happened to bring up the grant awards that we got from the Harvard Pilgrim. So, for instance, those come in, they go into that account, but they're earmarked for certain programs, so actually that will end up coming out instead of throwing it right into the programs account, because it is, I don't know, nice to just be able to say those were gifts or donations. So that's the way we've done it. So that's a fair amount that is mostly just sitting there and not necessarily used. The program, senior programs account is heavily used, and basically where everything sort of happens around activities and events for the senior center. It's a little bit harder to explain because the 8,000 that shows up midway down the page as a negative, I'm not quite sure why that is, whether it has to do with the conversion from the old system, but the $21,000 that shows as an adjustment, and is a positive number, of course, and then take away that 8,000, we now started working in the new fiscal year with 12,000 for programs as a balance. So then the year-to-date actual is 3,583. That is money that we actually spent. Okay, I know. If you look at that first sheet again, the very short sheet, that just shows you that, and the numbers do appear somewhere in that report, at least I thought they did. We ended up bringing in 21,000, right, which appears as a negative. I'm not sure why that is, but that's the money we brought in. So let's say, you know, everybody comes in here and pays their $4 for their cardio class, and we basically turn around and pay that instructor $4 per person, which is what should have come in, and you know what, frankly, it doesn't always, and that's fine. So sometimes there's already a little discrepancy. Painting, everything else, yoga, that is money in and more or less the same money out. But all that money comes in as a deposit goes into the account, and then each of the instructors is paid based on that. We did things,
I'm sorry, do they have taxes taken out of their, so they receive like a regular paycheck from the town, and they have taxes taken out, instructors?
you know, I'm probably
Withholding
sure that is
taxes?
true.
I had heard that through the grapevine, but I wanted to validate it.
1099.
I would think it's
I think they
1099.
do get 1099.
1099, so they do get the
No
whole,
tax.
yeah, I guess.
I don't think it would be taxed, yeah.
Well-
Yeah, I was trying to validate if that was a wrong one.
Well, we did get audited, and there was a way that they were recommending we do things, so I guess maybe we were doing them right to begin with, but, yeah, that's, I guess you're right, 1099. Anyway, we have extended ourselves in some cases by, which you'll see in the formula, guaranteeing a couple of classes a certain amount of money as opposed to doing it on a per-person basis. So, that's one way to explain the idea that we're taking in 21,000, but paying out 24,000.
Right.
So it shows up as our spending as 3,500. Keep in mind, we buy something like pickleball nets without any reimbursement coming in. We subsidize almost always a luncheon that we might put on. So we do the catering, which we've been doing up to this point at least, based on, not necessarily based on the number of people coming or having them pay for what we know the budget would be. We just
Do it.
ask for what we think is reasonable and then pay the extra. So that's about what that has come out for that account for this past year. That's how much we spent, which is a little more, I think, probably than usual. But, so available is now 8,000 instead of what had been 12,000. I put, instead of the report from the accounting system, I gave you what I actually turn in for the formula grant, because I actually did just submit a revision. So if you look at side 1, which starts with the staff positions at the top, so the activities volunteer coordinator position shows up, that is supported fully by the formula grant. It's a 25-hour a week position. And what you see in the column next to it is what Jill costs now. For the extra 10 hours a week, I am now supporting through the formula grant, in addition to what she's paid through the municipal budget for her 25 hours. So in other words, to bump her up to full-time, those 10 extra hours were approved by the Board of Selectmen, but supported by the formula grant. So I hadn't done that last July when I submitted it initially. I just asked, you know what, it's going to happen this July, can I actually start it in May? And so I made a revision of adding that $2,000 to do that. So I took it away from something else on the other page.
You're worth every penny of it, Joe. Every penny.
And more. If you look a little further down the page, that was something, the arthritis exercise class, we've always supported through the formula grant. And we pay Norwell V&A to come in and do that as the instructors. I added the Balance for Life because we started that class through the Mass Council on Aging grant that was offered, and we had it developed sort of specifically, and she's so popular, and the class is so beneficial, and everybody does like it. We wanted to continue it, and they were willing to pay, but to keep her, we wanted to be able to ensure she was making so much per class, per week, and reduce what we were asking people to pay by a little bit. So, in other words, I decided to put it in the formula grant and basically hope it all comes out fairly even in the end. So they're asked to donate, I think we asked them for $3, the participants, which again is a donation, but that's what we request. So, other side is the fun stuff. So originally, and we bought a dishwasher, you might remember, so that's on there. That was a big purchase. That usually wouldn't be part of my formula grant. So that was $2,500 that we couldn't do anything else with. And I had, because we love our chairs so much, these new chairs that some of you get to sit in, of course we only have 10, so some of us aren't sitting in them. And I had planned to buy 10 more, but we wanted Jill more. So that's how it works. Do you know what I mean? What was the priority? I actually still think we can buy a couple more, which we will. And we'll get more next year, which is really this year. So pretty soon we'll have more chairs. And then we got surprised by a new copier maintenance agreement, so I had to add that. And I'd actually neglected to put the copier lease payment on there, which we've traditionally done through the formula grant, so that's $105 a month. So just saying, some of it is operational, some of it is, value added, certainly, like the chairs and the furniture. If you move down to the newsletter mailing, $4,200, so that is supported almost completely by the formula grant at this point. We decided to have J&R Graphics do the mailing, not just the liturgical does the printing for no charge, based on, advertising, which is still low, but the postage, which you don't see here anymore, is a revolving account, but we pay for a lot of that really through the formula grant anyway, and the mailing. So we get a bill every month for postage and for mailing. And honestly, even though it's $750 or something a month, times 6, hence the $4,200, it's worth it. I think everybody's happy to be receiving their newsletter a little bit more efficiently and flat, not folded, which I like. So that was also an addition that we didn't have before. My conference and some staff training is paid for out of there. We did our CPR training out of the formula grant. And last but not least, it is always supporting the volunteer celebration that we put on. So based on the number of volunteers that we celebrate, that we have on record, we have that money to use for that luncheon or celebration. So down the bottom, just FYI, $43,340 is our allocation. And basically, that's how I'm using it. Lastly, you will see a page for GATRA. I didn't include the contract, but I will just point out at this point that there are different areas that are paid for out of the GATRA account. So personal services are the driver's salaries plus a portion of my salary, Jean's salary, anything that has to do with transportation, they allocate a percentage out of there. Vehicle services, the paratransit ride, and the fuels and lubricants. So we pay, we get charged for the number of rides that we give by GATRA. We also get charged by Social Community Action Council for the rides that we do out of town. Then we submit those to GATRA for reimbursement into the account. And as well, it pays for gas, it pays for repairs. I mean, $7,000 in repairs to that 14-person van because of just some difficulty in maneuvering it in several locations.
Yeah.
So, not ideal, but it was a little bit hard to get accustomed to. So it does show that we've got $25,000 remaining through the end of this fiscal year, which is pretty good, actually. So I had mentioned last time, I think that, you know, if I was out of money now, I'd have to be cutting services, and we are clearly not. We do have, well, you know, and Jean's been doing fabulously, jumping right into that, not really having handled that kind of thing before. We also have a little more money from Social Elder Services that we use, that's approximately $3,000. That's another grant, and that is transportation-oriented. So that supplements this a little bit, too. Question? Betty? Did you have a question? Nope. No.
Does anyone have any questions?
I hope I kept that short enough
Well presented.
and helpful. All
Very
right.
good, very good. Thank you for that.
You're
Now,
welcome.
you're still on, though, right?
Maybe. Am I? I am. Oh,
Events,
okay.
activities.
Okay. Departmental reports, there is one page and a little more from Lisa for events and activities. She shows some highlights of things that did happen in April, which we may have already talked about, in fact, but
And they walk? They don't walk, they keep
the trail walking, they went, once they had to cancel once because of rain, and I think there's another one coming up shortly, so I think they've done one.
How many?
How many people? 5 or 6 the first time. And I think some were disappointed about the rain the second time, so, yeah, and they have, maybe it's in the newsletter, I'm not sure, and I meant to bring that with me. They have some designated locations that people know of that have hiked and really, you
It was
know,
in the newsletter.
no, they'd be, speaking of that, too, trips, for instance, which are popular in Hebron, we have, you know, a Museum of Fine Arts trip coming up, which is full and has a long waiting list. So, I mean, there certainly are things that are being offered that are very popular. They did go to Blythewald, and that was, do you remember, maybe eight people, I think? 8, no, 10, oh, no, 11 in the end. So that was a good trip, and they enjoyed it. So there are several others coming up that are still available, other than the Museum of Fine Arts. But the categories that you see, that's how we put things into my senior center. Things could be maybe tweaked a little bit. in terms of what is considered. I mean, recreation is fairly clear, social events are fairly clear, but the community education, information sharing, instructional categories, things like painting or lifelong learning or cafe talks, how do they get categorized so that we're seeing where the numbers really are and what makes, what is popular or more popular.
How popular is the book club?
Not popular enough. It should be more popular because it's a nice group. There's about 5 or 6. And it's been led. It's one of our volunteer-led activities. So a couple is doing that, and they all choose the books. It's great. Let's see, what else? And volunteer hours. Now, we're working on that. And for instance, you all, which should have been better explained, I think, initially once you joined the board, that you are volunteers. Maybe you already were, but the idea that you're here for 2 hours, hour and a half, once a month, those are hours that we should be collecting. Now, I've done that manually sometimes, but if, for those who know and have their scan card, you walk in, you scan in, it says hello, and then you know right to go into volunteer, board member, 2 hours, bang, and we are all set for when it becomes May, and we want to run the report to see how many people have been recorded as not only volunteers, but as working so many hours for us for the year, so that they're then invited to the volunteer celebration. And also that goes into my annual report to the state. So it is important, and it's something that we just are trying to get better at, that people who are helping us out do know that they are volunteers, that every hour that they put in for us has a dollar value, really, whether it's $10, $12, $14. I mean, some things we put in way up, they're up there. And we value that. So, talk about that again a little bit later, actually. So, okay, on to Jenny's outreach report, which again, hopefully, as each of the staff members have been in here and sort of explained their report, as you look it over, it does make a little bit more sense, and you know what to hone in on in terms of their numbers. And it's important to know, total interactions for her 65 in a month. I mean, she is tracking that. They put that into the system in increments, whether it's a phone call or a meeting, or a meeting with someone 2 or 3 times in 15-minute or 30-minute increments. So number of seniors assisted for the month was 17 over those meetings. And she does still, of course, go to the housing authorities, each of the housing authorities once a month. She does meet with Dawn on a regular basis, Dawn Knapp, with the veterans agent. And Laura, of course, she and Laura do share information, so they meet each week just to go over some things that each of them is working on that they may need to communicate about. And she did help out a lot with the intern that we did have for those 5 weeks. And she was a social work intern, and so it was nice to have her working on a project with her and going out on some visits and interacting with the seniors that she was meeting with. So that was great. And then, sorry? I would do it again. I would do it again. And I think the more we do it, the better we get at it, but certainly space, surprise is a little bit of a factor.
Yeah, really, and how to manage this person.
Right.
To give them a good experience, to show them.
Right.
So it takes a little bit of planning.
It does. It does. But I think in the end can be very valuable for both of us. Transportation. Now, interestingly, I was just at the GATRA Advisory Board meeting yesterday, and they had all the 28 communities that they serve in the numbers, both for the public service, in our case, the sloop, and then the Council on Aging services, the dial-a-ride. And for most towns, their Council on Aging services, for some reason, we're reading that they were, maybe it's the public sloop. The public maybe had gone down. In our case, what has happened is the sloop numbers are actually very good. They're pretty high. And our Council on Aging services showed to be slightly lower. Not a ton, and if you look at Jean's numbers at the end, it does look like they're lower, 487 to 682 from last month.
487 seems like it's about average, but 622 is high.
So, interestingly, though, they seem to think on the GATRA end that the sloop is serving more of our population as well,
Good.
and therefore they're not necessarily always calling for the reserved rides that we may have been providing before, which is fine.
Which is great.
It's coming out of the same pot, really, frankly, so it's fine if that's what works for them. Just an interesting note. We were a little bit different than the other towns, in fact.
We're different from every town.
Yeah, so I've been told. Also, interestingly, Jean had gone back and compared the numbers for the month with last year's numbers, and they actually were consistent, so that's interesting, too. I'm not sure what that means, but she did do that.
These are consistent.
It's a nicer weather than
Except for this, yes, absolutely.
in March.
Yeah.
So I think for my report and those of the staff, I think I am ready.
Very good, thank you. Does anyone have any questions on?
Do you need a motion to accept it?
No, I don't.
We need a motion to have her stop talking, maybe.
I really tried.
Liaison, South Shore Elder Services, Joan.
Our meeting was on May 2nd, it's always the first Tuesday of the month. One of the things that they read was the governor's executive order to create a council addressing aging in Massachusetts. So this will be a new council, and it's because 65 and older will be making especially like 23% of the population.
Of Massachusetts.
Growing. So this council is going to look into it. And the staff updates, leadership is good, training is ongoing because they need more leaders, and they have several discussions. And community partnership, they have a very good contract with veterans, and it's growing. So they're just, this is a veterans magazine, and this is one of the ads about South Shore Elderly. They're also in two different magazines. This the same ad. This is a New England monthly, and this is another monthly, which is actually the same magazine but different area. And this is the article. They have both magazines, and that's monthly. They have this, so if you want to see it, you can pass it around. We also have it in this one. It's funny because these magazines are exactly alike except for different areas. So this is the other ad here.
This is good.
And they have a very good communications with the legislation. They've had meetings with them, and they get a good representative of that. They had someone from South Shore Elderly Service go to all the council of agents and interview them to see what type of programs and compare what each one is doing. Financially, they're in very good shape. They always go over the budget like we do here at the meetings. There was a paper on the senior care option that works with Mass Health, which is it's kind of a new health program they're going through. And so they had papers on that. The board training was done by Linda Kelly on nutrition, which covers Meals on Wheels. And the Lindsley food service we've had for 5 years, they're very happy with. Very good. They've much improved over what we used to have. And our site here in the Scituate, in the Methodist Church, we have a group that meets Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. That's like, sometimes they can't go to your functions because they're Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from noon time to like 1:30. And we're getting now 14 to 16 people for that.
Oh, that's good, huh? That's good.
But of course, they always need more volunteers. We are getting some of the Florida people back on, snowbirds, but we still need, more help.
Joan, could any of us just volunteer for the lunch itself to help? Or do we still have to go certified to SSE?
You still have to
Oh,
go
okay.
through South Shore
Yeah.
Elderly to do it.
So we couldn't just pop in and help?
No, they have to really, that's the kind of think about that. And the volunteer luncheon for all the workers, the ones that got Meals on Wheels and others, that's a big thing, and that's gonna be on June 21st. The picnic date is August 17th, and that's always at the Antasca Beach, so if you wanna put that down and save that date, that's always a lot of fun, and we hope we have good weather for it.
What's that date again?
August 17th.
August
August
17th. And then at St. Luke's, the 28th, we're gonna have meatloaf.
Big
salad
favorite.
rolls, and
So that's dinner. Dinner at 5 o'clock,
5 o'clock,
St. Luke's,
St. Luke's,
28th of
28th.
May.
Remember, it's always the fourth Sunday of the month.
So that's for seniors and anyone in the community.
Anybody
That's
can
right,
go,
so
anybody
yeah.
can go to
I
that.
was just
Yep.
emphasizing.
And you know, now that it's
they
lighter,
can't-
you know, we get more people. We get 45 to 80 people.
Yeah.
And this is about the recognition for the volunteers. And that's it.
Very good. Thank you, John.
Good job.
Elaine, Commissioner of Disabilities, report?
Just to talk about the, I mentioned this last week, last month, the Mass Office Discrimination Call for Art. Just to let you know that we have provided funds to the high school and to Reach for Recovery. And the high school submitted back to us just this morning some pictures that the IXL program, which is the special needs program that the students have drawn or cut and pasted and what have you, several different things that address the barriers that they have had to learning. It was really quite good. So hopefully they're going to, that was from the, Gail Barrasso, who's the head of that program. Hopefully they'll submit it to the, to Boston, but they've got directions on how to do that. We are looking at developing, hosting, but not doing the presentation. A forum in the fall, late, early November, because we have to look at the sports schedules and all this sort of stuff. For all disabled or handicapped people within the community, not just the elderly, but everybody, and parents of students. So we would be having, like the fire chief, the police chief, the Best Buddies program, course, Coastal Coalition, multiple different organizations speak to what resources are available within the community, because we feel a lot of people don't know what's available. We're also looking to have vendors come in to demonstrate their wares, and they would then fund any refreshments we were providing, because if they're, that's their selling point. So we have 2 people who are working on that and looking to have it done in early November, I think, was the target date. And we're still working on the forms that I mentioned last month to update the access and functionality forms that are available through the fire department. With the new 9/11 enhanced program, they want to get an updated version, because what they had was very basically generic and didn't offer a lot of information to the first responders or whoever might be going out. These forms were going to be, we're developing them, but they're going to put them in their system and have them online so that they can be filled out online, and then their IT people will play with whatever we come up with. So that should be done by the middle of June. And I think that's...
Okay.
Very good.
Well, I'd just like to mention that, interestingly enough, the MBTA budget cuts, we're going to try to cut for the next budget, the ride. Period. They're just going to modify it to the, it's good news though, modify it to the point of almost extinction. And I don't know how they did it, but people rallied at the State House. It was on the news almost every night for a week. People were rallying at the State House, and people in wheelchairs, crutches. It was unbelievable, the turnout of people, and the ride remains. So
Awesome.
there's something to be said for people power.
Speaking out, yeah,
You know,
that's
I
great.
hope I'm not the only one who watches the news.
The Council on Aging's for all the communities that would have been
Yeah.
affected, because they were talking about transferring the responsibility for all of that to the
The
municipalities and the councils on aging. It wouldn't
Right, but the
have affected
MBTA
us,
was
but-
cutting it from their budget, and they were planning not
So,
to
yeah.
have anything to do with it. And the people power was unbelievable.
Awesome.
And remains in the budget.
I did miss that, but that's great.
Great. Voss, Betty.
The Friends of Scituate Seniors is sponsoring, we know, a golf tournament June 16th at Widows Walk, and we're signing up golfers right and left, but there's still room for more. We're going to be looking for volunteers. We have quite a few, but we'll be looking for more. I think that's what we need to say. Talk to your friends and neighbors. Also, we're going to have a presence. The Friends of Scituate Seniors will have a presence at the Memorial Day Parade in front of Richardson Gaffey Funeral Home, and they'll be offering coffee, and Richardson Gaffey is going to contribute whatever donations they receive to the Friends of Scituate Seniors, which is really nice. Also, we had a really nice experience at the transfer station a couple of weeks ago. We got a lot of support from people in Scituate. We met a lot of people in Scituate. We got to talk to a lot of people. And if I could just say that in the 6 or 7 years that I've been involved in the campaign for a more adequate senior center, and Audrey would say it's 11 or 12 years, we've met a lot of people. And a lot of people that have worked with us and supported us have said, "I'll never live to see it." Well, some of them are not with us anymore. A lot of them are. And what I would like to say is that our Scituate neighbors, young and old, are supporting us more than ever. And we felt that as we met with them and spoke with them, and as we do every day. And I would just like to say thank you to the people in Scituate that are supporting the Friends of Scituate Seniors.
And the senior center.
Right.
And the senior
the
center,
senior
of
center.
course, but the Friends and their
And
campaign.
that's
That's what they're expecting, that's what
and
they
their
are expecting, they're
campaign for an
supporting is the
adequate
senior center.
center.
So
Yep.
that's,
So it was successful. The transfer station was
It
successful.
was lovely. It was just a really
It was
nice.
cold.
It was cold, yeah, it was
Wet?
cold. But those of us that were there will say that it was worth it. But the next time, we're going to do it in warm weather.
Can you guarantee the warm weather? They're in May.
I understand. Very good.
I would
Thank you.
just, jump on what Betty said. And it was true, and I think we did it last year too, didn't we?
We did.
In the fall.
I didn't keep specific numbers, but I would bet that it had to be close to 65 to 70% of people who passed by stopped. And most of them, maybe they put $1 in, maybe they put pocket change in, but most of them said, "Thank you for what you're doing. We're glad to see that there's now a significant effort toward resolving the senior needs." And it was really refreshing to see it and to hear it. And so I agree with Betty. I think the general population in Scituate now is more accepting of the fact that something needs to be done.
Good. Very good.
Absolutely.
John, Commission on Disabilities.
Thank you. To add up what Elaine said, it was about the forum. We had a couple meetings, and we did mention, we want to thank the Council of Aging for all the work they've done. And we kind of hinted to maybe come to Linda or you for advice on how to set it up, because this is actually what you were doing. We don't repeat what you're doing, but step on your toes, we want to add to it and accent to it, because the Council of Aging has done a great job at shows and so on.
so in terms of the forum, to talk about resources available,
Yeah,
whether through
yeah.
us or elsewhere?
Yes, because I said
Okay.
all the councils that go to traveling back and forth to get networking. The Council of Aging, I've heard say, is a flagship. Everything goes from Council of Aging. You're the network, you're our base, we should be making sure that you're top-notch. We're trying, okay? We're not
Well, they
getting-
are top-notch.
No, we're trying to make you help them get up. we hit the same kind of walls you're hitting. But we want to make sure that you know we're there, not trying to step on your toes, and we're very thankful, and we would appreciate any help you can get, and in the
Sure,
future,
of course.
and we can do, and so on. With that said, there's a thing going on at the last meeting about the transition report. The way to get it done right is to have what's called a self-evaluation. Now, if you didn't have a self-evaluation, it's a complaint. And complaints, you get fined back and forth and so on. The Council of Aging has a lot of issues that people really haven't brought up into light. With the self-evaluation, Elaine and I can come in, do the exact kind of report that the town needs for the transition report and save the town some money, and you have a documentation saying, verified by certified people from the state, as to what you need and so on, and we're gonna help maybe move you out of here a lot faster to a better place. And the people in the public will see the documentation and know what's going on.
So you're talking about deficiencies or non-compliance with some of the ADA regulations?
Yeah, identifying it so that these things need to be addressed, or maybe you should demolish and
Because there's
rebuild.
some rumors, people saying, oh, that's okay, that can get by. They don't know what they're really talking about, because they don't get to the curb here and see the cross slope. They don't, see the restrooms, the hinges not so wide, and faucets and the handrails and what have you. They don't see the setup, and they don't see how the flow is. They're doing everything. When I walk in here, I see always a program going on. People are trying. You're a family center, not just you pull everything together. And it's kind of sad it's not being addressed as much as it should. Not from your aspect. I see you at meetings, I see you hitting the pavement, talking. I've talked to Mr. Price several times, I've talked to Elaine. We have liaison here for that reason. So we're doing what we can. So we would like to have this, since Elaine and I are trained, we would like, as it comes up, to help the town, if maybe some of you might be interested to be trained also by the state, and maybe help our commission get this project done. And we get some cool tools.
Did we want to maybe get permission or set up a time or something that we could come in with
We
Linda?
have to let her
and
talk back and forth and so on, let her counsel see
Yeah,
the
yeah.
time back and forth. It's just.
It wouldn't take
It's not
like
necessarily a
days.
complaint, but it's a report that they need for the transition report to get it moving as fast as possible.
Where would this report end up going to, John?
You would get a copy of the report.
Yeah.
Okay, the report would go to the town.
Town hall?
And they would know what's going on, and they would have documentation, because the other way is, if someone puts a complaint in, it's a civil violation. And so it's kind of like a good thing and a bad thing. It's a way of not getting fined, but you get the information out at the same time. And you're compromising, I feel, the best you can with the town. Saying, listen, okay, now we know you're not getting fined, we're not complaining, but this is the proof that we have. And so this is technically what the commission still is supposed to be doing, supposed to educate and advise and help you. Now, with that said, there were funds that ended June 30th, up to $250,000 to help some of these problems. Another $250,000 will be opening up July 15th.
Next budget cycle?
Grants from the state.
We're trying to help the dog park, we're trying to help the beach creation, putting in matting and boardwalks for disabled. We're going to try to get an arena and get a lift for one of the piers where families can go to the marina, meeting there, and get to the dock, in a boat, and out of the boat. They have it, the handicap parking, they have the ramp. They don't have what's down
Well, that would be what an accomplishment that would be. That would be wonderful.
So
I'd love to do that.
we need your help. We want to show, teach, educate, show we're working with the community, because we see you working, okay? But there's another way to get heard better, more efficiency, and the town needs it now. So they're needing it for this transition report. And with your helping, it moves the process along and it saves them funding.
Well, I'm
Okay.
all in favor of the town saving funding. I want to see the people in the town get some help, the disabled people get some assistance.
Well, when it comes down, we have this report, you'll see where some of the shortfalls are. When you go for the grants, you have a documentation from the state, people have been certified by the state to do these things, that you need it. And if you want to stay here, there's some funds to help you go for to get the funds to help make the tiny repairs that you need and so on. So it might be a quick Band-Aid, but honestly, do you really feel you're going to need a new place in 6 or 8 months?
No, not quite that quick. No.
3 months.
If you move the...
At Christmas, how about Christmas?
3 more glasses to this side over here, you'll be fine.
But, I mean, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't want to cooperate with the program.
I mean, we have some pretty cool
Yeah,
rules.
everyone's benefit.
Yeah. So
Well, I
we
mean, the
just-
first time you came and gave your first presentation to us, I don't know, it was maybe 6 or 8 months ago, I forget, but I mean, you pointed out inadequacies then of this, do you recall? You
Yeah.
pointed out
When you first came,
specific
yeah.
inadequacies. Have they been attended to,
Well, we...
of this building, of this center?
No.
No, not exactly, not all of them. What we did the first thing is the way we look at things and we're trained is to look from the outside in. You're going to be invited in. And that's where the handicap parking spots came in. You got new signs and so on, elevation, to inviting. You got to realize when it comes to discrimination, which is a disability is, it went 180-degree turn, as opposed to a sign saying no Irish apply, no Catholics, no Jewish, no blacks. It came down to the sign was saying handicap accessible. It invited them in as opposed to not allowed, invited in. And that's how the state is going and the country's going. So once you get past the threshold, then you're inside and you start doing everything. We were trained that if you can't get from outside, we stop and you fill. We didn't want to give you the feeling.
Right, but you listed at least five or six things, your first presentation. When you came in, beside the parking, you listed the bathroom doors
Right,
as
yeah.
being, I'd have to look at my notes, but you listed 5 or 6 concrete things in this current building that were not favorable to any disabled senior citizen. Have they been attended to?
I haven't checked the bathrooms. The handicap parking spots, even though the ground's not the right kind of angle, the signs are in. Paint wears on the ground left and right. I checked the door for pressure and back, that was fine, adjusted, and the ramp passed by, it was more sturdy again. So there's 4 out of the 5 that you're talking about.
And the
But going past
bathroom
the bathroom
doors?
door-
You didn't check
I
that.
haven't checked that. Yeah. But this,
But that was a-
that was obvious stuff. It wasn't really, you know, pulling a report out and going pay, this, yeah. For example,
Oh, God.
this is the book. This is a book just on codes and regulations, how things are supposed to be. And some things are partake just for, example, pools, some things just partake for restrooms, some partake for function halls.
Right, I understand that.
Yeah.
I was asking about this building and if any improvements have been made since your first presentation on the, I'm not disabled now, but I spent a number of years on
All right, for example,
being temporarily disabled.
do you
It's an
see
important
the
issue.
emergency defibrillator machine? Is that what it's, my glasses?
Yeah,
are.
yeah, that is, yeah.
If a chair wasn't there, for example, that would be a violation. For example, nothing can expand more than 4 inches because a person who is visually impaired might be walking into it and take out their shoulder or their face. And it's also based on height. So the chair being there makes it where it's out past the 4 inches because the chair is covering that. Someone has a cane and walking.
Don't move the chair.
and it breaks the barrier.
Be lucky I put that.
Glue it.
I talked to the principal, there were some issues, and instead of like tearing walls down and recessing things back and forth, if you just move this over here. We're not there to make you destroy things. We're supposed to give you, advise you how to survive what you have for the time being. So what we're asking basically for is that you allow us to, you know, help and hopefully maybe invite some of you to the training course and you can help us go out and do things. It's hard to do it one-on-one. Because Elaine will tell you, it's a matter of walking, taking paperwork, putting things down. We did go with someone from Park Recreation and Bignati. And she was getting kind of upset with him again because I would just walk away. And the reason being is because I'm I'm disabled, and sometimes my legs are really bad, so I just focus on getting from here to there. And we did the inspection right here. So going to the next one, I was focused on the curve or the ground, the gravel, where they slip on, where my handle's gonna be. And after about 15 minutes, she picked up what I was doing, because I explained why. And she could see. And it was kind of fun, because you're pointing out, oh, what about this? What about that? And she was
Yeah,
on
no,
case.
yeah.
For some people, you know there's a problem, but you don't know why, you can explain why. But it's an easy fix. The signs were an easy fix. Putting that chair there's an easy fix.
Right.
So back to the original, so the transition report, is that actually what we're discussing? And is that a
We're talking about
formal,
self-evaluation.
We're talking about the self-evaluation form.
which
that
which
would
is
be-
going into the transition
It
report?
would
We need
be,
that first, yes.
it would be there for the
But is
the
that-
contractor who's doing the transition report to review.
Because if not, it would cost maybe 3 times as much.
Is
and
that,
4 times
so is
as much.
that an official initiative of the Council on Disability, Commission on
That's
Disability?
one of the things we do is.
That then, when is that
evaluations.
due to the town? Is
We were the
that?
ones
Yeah.
going die-hard for the transition plan in the first
I'm
place.
just wondering what we're looking at for a time
We were fighting
frame.
as hard to get it done for the past couple of years. It's been in our agenda for years.
Just within, I mean, as long as it's done before the transition
When is that?
contractor, they're going to be sending out an RFP because it was approved at town meeting, so they don't get the money until July 1st, so they'll send out an
This
RFP
year.
for people to come in to bid on doing the transition report. So as long as we had it done by,
And it might take
Middle of
them
July.
3 or 4 months to even start it. If they start on this building.
Okay.
that's
but if we had it done by the middle of, the self-evaluation done
Yes.
by mid-July,
They don't have to
wouldn't
do a
be a problem.
self-evaluation, the transition plan goes a lot faster, yes.
Okay.
So can we leave that with
Mhm.
you guys to schedule?
Yep.
Okay.
and we're pretty much available, so,
Okay.
as long as you go into June.
On the next thing, I don't want to repeat something, because a lot of times I've seen programs about funding and so on. Has anybody spoke about the new ABLE Act, 529?
Oh, that just got passed.
Yes, just.
Yeah.
One night
We're
this
gonna talk
week.
everything.
Yeah, it just got passed. Yeah, anyway, go ahead. It just got passed
Well,
last,
there used to be
yesterday.
a plan where it came down to where if you had a child, a person, a family with disabilities, or a friend, you would start investing. You can invest $14,000 a year, up to $100,000 cap, and then it starts affecting the person's SSDI and so on. The problem being, if you wanted a child to go to school and help them out, great for you. Child goes to school, has so much money, doesn't cover food, doesn't cover housing, doesn't cover clothes. It just covers the school itself. And that would cause a lot of problems down the way, because in the interim, a lot of families who put the program in may have passed away in the meantime. So what happened, the 521A came in and it relieved that. The only thing is that Fidelity Investments is the only broker that can handle this for anyone doing it. And MOD, Massachusetts Office of Disability, wanted us to address these issues. And that's when we also addressed the part about the transition plan. What-
So addressing the
What is
issues
the
by
new
telling
plan?
us,
The new plan is called the 521A, an alternate.
21 or
That allows-
29?
Yeah, that allows you to be able to
Yeah.
use the same funds to cover housing for the person, to cover their food, to cover their clothes. Before it was just that.
Only school.
Yeah. And it left a big hole, and it made, you start up investing thinking it covers everything, and it doesn't. Sometimes transportation was housing for college for people was 17 grand a year for some people, based on where they went. And they, 14,000 a year starting off, after like the 8th year, you can't afford to have them housed and going to school at the same time.
Mhm.
This helps relieve the gap.
Okay.
I did speak to, I think, Andrea Rose, let her know about this, because when I first found out, I called her. Because she speaks at your meetings every once in a while.
Andrea,
Andrea Rose, is that the person? there?
from where?
What?
From
Who,
where?
where is she from?
She was in the, she gives a financial advice, isn't she?
I don't know.
We have someone named Adrian Rouse who
Oh, I'm
does do
sorry,
that
Adrian
for
Rouse.
us.
Rouse.
She's
Is that Adrian Rowley?
Rouse.
From the dog park?
She is also.
Yes, that's right. I apologize. I'm chewing gum, I shouldn't be chewing gum, I apologize.
So I'm just wondering how that's relevant for us and while you're making the statement here
And
about
we have
that.
to cover every aspect. People who usually have the money to
Every-
invest, are usually senior citizens who invest in their children, or people with disabilities.
Okay.
And they want to make sure that
Okay.
we reach down. That's why
Okay.
I'm addressing that. That's why I asked first if you covered it prior.
No, yeah, good, okay. So it opens it up for families to
Okay.
enable,
Right,
if-
so
that are
if
able
it's
to
grandparents,
self-fund.
You can invest in
I
your,
think it has to do with the
children
Mass
that-
Health. Is this the one that?
What happens if it affects, if you,
No, if you have a child that is disabled, they have Mass Health, and, you know, they can only keep $2,000. So this allows parents of
To
disabled
fund.
to save money
Right,
in order to plan for the
I see,
future.
okay, like a
They won't get
college fund, like a
Yeah.
college.
no pen-
that's great,
It's,
they can't go 14,000.
yeah.
And last night on the
No,
news,
but
when
like
it got
that.
passed by the state
Is it like that?
legislature, they had a feature story on a young man who works. He has he's mentally challenged, but he works and makes a good salary, he has 2 jobs. And he's like 21 or 22, and his, I don't know, they've probably been hiding some of the money, and his parents are aging, and they were worried, what's gonna happen to our son?
yep.
And he's maintaining 2 jobs just perfectly. And now, as he ages, he can have a bank account that's up to 100 and something
Yes.
thousand, and his parents, if they pass away, they can pass away with ease, knowing that their son is gonna
Has been
be
funded.
okay
Yeah.
financially.
That's the shift.
So, they,
What
you know,
news channel do you?
Sounds like a nice change.
What news channel?
yeah. We don't have to
well, I'm a
spend
sort of a
money to
news
spend it.
junkie, so
Yeah.
To keep
it's not a bad
Yeah,
addiction to
yeah,
have.
yeah.
No, it's
save-
not,
yeah.
no, no.
The family's still got.
Frustrating,
Yeah.
but not
But-
bad.
But you can save money.
Yeah, yeah, good. All right, great, thank you, John.
No, thank you.
Was that yours?
Um,
No?
Oh, mine.
So we've got board business, and I'm going to sort of turn to you to discuss some of this stuff. I know
Okay.
that we've
Yep.
talked about term expirations, and I believe
So, yeah,
I'm up for renewal or expiration, Gordon and Lucille,
right, as it turns out, and
Our
and
three-year
honestly,
term.
I'd forgotten, so we did note, and many of you got the handout, which, there is such a handout that lists all of the board members, as we brought on 3 new board members this past year, July, with their terms. So term begins July and ends June, last meeting in June.
That's on the sheet with the names and addresses and
Yes.
emails.
Yes.
Yes. So as it turns out, yes, John, or JD, Gordon, and Lucille are up for renewal because it was their first term, so you can renew for up to 2 terms,
Mhm.
6 years in total, but you don't have to, but you are able to.
Mhm.
So we wanted to make sure people were aware of that. Without their doing, if they all want to renew, then there's no new openings. But if someone did not want to renew, then there would be an opening.
And how do they
And then they
notify?
submit to the Board of Selectmen. There, if you go online, and actually, I do have it if you wanted me to email it to you, but on the town website
Uh-huh.
is the application for submitting to the Board of Selectmen for
renew.
any committee or,
Okay,
um,
Is it
okay.
a reappointment?
so the reappointment is different. I
Oh.
believe that's just notifying Lorraine Devon, the Board of Selectmen's office
Oh,
for
you don't have to
reappointment.
apply, you just have to,
For reappointment, I
Right.
believe, not, just
Okay.
indicate.
just say that you want to stay.
Right, right.
So that Dr. Price, Lucille,
Right,
that would be a renewal. They
Right.
they could just
right.
go.
Isn't that what
against
you
the
did
renewal.
last time?
But I still had to go before the board, though.
Did you?
What's the difference between a renewal and a
That's what
reappointment?
I'm thinking.
No, nothing, that's just another
Okay.
word for
I
it.
know, but I still had to go before the board and answer the same questions, you know,
You don't-
and what do you want to do for the senior? You know, took 2 seconds. I don't know if it's changed now. Lorraine Devon is very
Right,
organized, so
she
maybe
is.
it's, you
And
know.
because they're offering up to it's a 2-year limit, I mean, 2-term limit, I thought that was sort of.
Okay,
Yeah.
but
so we're
I could
middle,
be
we're
wrong.
approaching middle of May, so we've got to make a decision in the next 6 weeks on that, right?
Right.
Okay,
And then accept nominations for chair, for vice chair, and for secretary.
Mhm.
Um, Which then really happens with the new board, correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
Which would probably be July or August.
And not the new board, you know, if not necessarily even a changed board, but new year.
Mhm.
So, And then also, sort of because of that, and I've talked about this before, and I've just worked a little bit better. This is just a little prototype folder, but the idea that each of you should have something that has, oh, and actually I did at least print the table of contents, why don't? So a binder that you should have that you can bring to every meeting and has the roster, has the meeting date, so you don't have to always shuffle your papers. And also, especially for those of you who are new or more recently, you know, we have a board member overview. You know, what does it mean? What are the expectations? What are the responsibilities, potentially? And so that should be in here, and I've got a tab for that, and that's something we could work on through committee. So the idea that it would be nice to have, beyond just the board meeting monthly, but a few subcommittees that people would get involved in if somebody wanted to review the bylaws, which are sort of old and woefully really not very comprehensive, I guess. So we have those to be looked at. We have the idea that events could be worked on through the board, or that certain board members might be interested in promoting some kind of a program that I'm interested in using volunteers for, and that could come from the board. It could be an event that the board sponsors, so to speak, that is promoting our interests, or even the interests of the community, even if it was for fuel assistance or something that we could use some extra help with providing, if that were the case. Or just wanted to show our support of the community because of their support of us, kind of thing. So, you know, there's more that the board could do if we had people talking about it in maybe a small group and then reporting to the bigger group about that. So,
Well, we did the subcommittees with the possibilities of a new senior center. That
Right.
worked very effectively. We went, you know, we met on our own terms at different times.
So, the thought is like a standing committee, always for long-range planning or advisory, you know, 2 or 3 people. The nominating committee, there should be somebody that maybe talks about that, or helps to recruit from the community. Now, the way the Board of Selectmen does it now is all the applicants go to the Board of Selectmen meeting and are interviewed and are not necessarily selected, but last time was the first time that there were more than the openings that existed, as far as I know. But
Well,
it would
that's
be
right,
nice,
right,
we've
right,
talked
yeah,
about
yeah.
maybe meeting people who are interested in the board and having them come to a meeting before
Perspective,
necessarily
right.
going
Yep.
that direction. So that would be something the nominating committee could maybe work on. Finance committee, somebody who may want to be more involved with me, and, you know, when things are happening that I have questions about or discussion, that would be something. But then events and marketing I've talked about before, and the bylaw review committee. So that's just something I wanted to be able to say, so that as we start a new year, maybe that gets into everybody's hands, if, you know, everybody sort of approves of
Or
it.
heads.
Or heads, too. And then just sort of formalize some of the responsibilities.
So
of the
what
board.
are the board's elections? You know, we have an election coming up, is that in June?
I would-
We didn't do it in June last
Yeah,
year, we did it in
in July, so I
July,
would
so
think
that
it'd
the
be
new board
July.
members were available for
Okay,
that.
Yeah.
so we, at the July meeting, we'll be holding an election?
That's
So
how we do it.
need- Yeah, so we need to keep that in mind.
So we need nominations
Yeah.
in,
If we have new board members, they can't vote in an election, correct?
no, they did.
Did you?
Yeah.
I know, I remember it was the,
Well, you couldn't nominate, maybe.
I'm sorry?
I
No.
thought they could,
It was right after 4th of July.
Yeah.
That first meeting
Yeah.
after 4th of July.
See, our bylaws are really in tough shape, so this is, I
Oh,
don't.
yeah, we're.
Yeah, and no, I'm
making
just
it up.
saying, that isn't even remotely in the bylaws, so I don't, maybe get that from another.
It should be clearly stated,
Yeah,
and
it
it's
should
not.
be,
It
right.
simply says
Absolutely.
officers are elected every year. That's what it says.
Our bylaws are
Right.
very vague, so. Now, are you running for school committee?
yes.
So if Janice wins the school committee election,
Well, nobody's running against me.
so when Janice becomes the school committee member, can she also be on the board here?
Yes, I asked Kathy,
Okay,
yeah.
no, good. I was worried. I read her Facebook, people were running, I said, oh no, we're gonna lose her.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Great.
So any thoughts or questions? Yeah.
So you suggested these
Yeah,
What do we do?
so if, then I guess I'll pass them out in
Wait for
June
a
or
month.
July and have that as a, well, maybe pass them out next time.
I mean, I'll volunteer to review the bylaws. I'd
Okay.
be happy
Do you
to.
like that idea?
Oh, you're so
Yeah.
wonderful.
Well, I don't know what they look like, but
Yeah.
I hope they're not as big as that book.
No, in fact,
What sheets of paper? I'm serious.
I think I may have, there's a Town of Scituate bylaws or charter, which I think I have in here. And that's.
All the bylaws are online.
It
Not ours.
is, I mean, it was a
Well, I mean,
little bit hard to
Yeah,
find.
don't go in
The town.
there.
But
Okay.
in order to try to establish this as a 9-member board, there was some discrepancy. So, in other words, there was this Council on Aging, 1 or 2 paragraphs that I think said 7 or more.
Right.
Oh, at
7,
least
9, or
7
11.
members.
There's
And then
two
there was something else with the Town of Scituate that said 9, and then there was yet another page.
Yeah, there was 7, 9, and 11 all
Right,
mentioned. as-
right. So we went with the 9.
Right.
But, we could write anything we want into it. We could decide that we want alternate members or associate members that may not be voting, but may be in for
Right,
discussion.
or
So-
here is backup.
There are other
almost. Yep,
models.
Yep.
So, we've had them from Duxbury and have looked at those, but we could get them from other places and see how different they are, because they may very well be. I don't know that. So that's great. So if anyone has thoughts, what I will do is compile this. I asked JD to look at it to see what he thought. So anyway, discussions on responsibilities and whatnot, and then I'll give them out next time.
And thanks to the
So
Bob Jackman course that I took here at the Senior Center on the history of Situate's government, we do have a town charter. So I don't know if that's online, but that
Maybe.
might help you with your,
Well,
So we'll try to pass out a 75% complete binder to everyone next month, and maybe look to solicit interests on
a few committees.
committees. Okay?
Yes.
And we're talking about, again, long-range planning, nominating committee, finance, potentially events, marketing and advocacy, and the bylaw review.
Could you email those out? Then we could think about them.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay?
Do you have a copy of the bylaws?
Yes, I do. I'm like, really, it's a page. I
No,
think
you have to
it-
start right on a blank.
No, I'm sorry, it's not one page, it's,
3, 4, 5 thoughts.
There's a couple.
it's 2.5 pages, 2.25 pages. Sides. That's ours.
She's a
The,
CPA, I think she can handle 3 pages.
the general bylaws is just 2 paragraphs for us, and then the Situate Council on Aging is 2 pages. But they're old, 99.
Okay. Anything else on binders? Anything else on board business? Audrey?
I'm going to resign as of July 1st. All the other people that have such good enthusiasm take my place.
Audrey, we'll miss you so much, you're a veteran. You're a veteran of the board.
That's why it's time to give somebody
Well,
else a chance.
It's been a necessary voice and a very helpful
I'll be here for the
presence.
next meeting. But I just thought probably this is the time I should say it now that we're talking about it.
Okay.
A round of applause for Audrey.
We'll accept that in a month or so.
Well,
Okay. Any other business announcements?
I just want to thank Janice for throwing her hat in the ring. I applaud anyone who is willing to take the time out of their busy lives to serve the town, and especially something like the school committee. So thank you from me, and I hope we will give Janice all the support that she needs when she is there on that committee, and it'll be great to have one of us there at Town Hall. So thank you, Janice,
Yes.
for doing that.
Thank God you don't run against anyone. I don't want to stand out there with a
I
sign.
know.
Also,
Audrey?
thank you for this secretary's report. It was very,
Yes.
there was a lot of information there. Thank you. A lot of coming. Good stuff.
Any other business?
No, can
Do
we
we hear a
go home?
motion to, do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to
Second,
adjourn.
Maureen? Very good.